Alrighty, let's see. That should be good to go. That should be good to go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. Hope you've enjoyed it. I ain't going to lie, I napped for a good chunk of today because this week was just kind of exhausting. But I do have, let me get this off the screen here. I do have a little bit more of an updated slide deck here in regards to the show. I was trying to put some stuff together on the Columbus Blue Jackets lines, but they're kind of different from what they have been a lot lately. So there's not a ton of data on them. So there's not much of a point in putting them up right now. They've shuffled things up a whole lot lately. We will talk about their lines and what they could be potentially dangerous. But as far as having a ton of information on them to present, there's not really much. But what we will do is we will talk about what each one of those lines has the potential for. Elvis Merzlikins is in net, so we got plenty of stuff to talk about there. And, of course, keeping up with what's going on with the Canes and everything like that. So now that we've got all that out of the way and the slides are uploading and they are here. All righty. So we'll go ahead and get right to it here, and I'll take care of comments and all that type of stuff at the end or as we go. So first things off here, Carolina is 14-5-0. They lost the other night, as we all know, but it was on the back end of a back-to-back against a really good team and their third-string goalie. Congratulations, New Jersey. You basically beat up a 2-year-old. Just kidding. Don't at me, Neil. Game one is today of a four-game series here, a four-game season series with the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Hurricanes are 14-5-0. The Jackets are 9-2. The Hurricanes are first in the Metropolitan Division at 7-3-0, are first in the Metropolitan Division and are 7-3-0 in their last 10 games, whereas Columbus is 2-6-2 and sixth place in the Metropolitan Division. Now, when we look at the relevant records here on the road, Carolina doing pretty good, 7-4-0. However, Columbus, for all the struggles they've had, they're doing really well at home. They are 6-3-0. So this is a team that can use last change and having home ice advantage to be able to win games based on that. Overall goal differential, Carolina is plus 28 with 74 goals for and 46 against. Columbus just shy of breaking even with that, 65 for, 68 against. Goals for per game, Carolina 3.89. They are third in the NHL. Columbus 3.42. They are 10th in the NHL. So that's one thing to keep an eye on if this becomes a high event game. Columbus is tending to win games where the score is 3 or greater. Goals against per game, Carolina 2.42, fourth in the NHL. Pretty solid there. If it wasn't for all the 5-on-3s, they'd probably be a little bit higher. Columbus not doing so well in that department, 3.59 goals against per game. So, again, high-scoring games, they really have to score a lot. So, most games that they win, they probably need 4 goals, especially against a team like Carolina. Power play, Carolina currently sits in 7th with a 24.2. Still staying solid on the power play lately. Despite the loss the other night, we did get another power play goal from Andrei Svechnikov, and that was an excellent play. If you ask me, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. 18% for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They rank 19th. Penalty kill, Carolina sits 5th with 83.3%. Penalty kill, 78%. 20th for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Overall, special teams, Carolina has a 53.75% special teams net positive, and Columbus is in the negative with that, 48% for their total special teams. Faceoffs, Carolina has kind of climbed the ladder back up there a little bit. They are at 52.1%, and Columbus Blue Jackets are sitting evenly in 19th at 50%. All right, so news, injuries, and scratches. Of course, we already know Jesper Foss is out for the season with a neck injury. What I actually did not know until today, maybe I just straight up missed it, he was shifted to LTIR as of Wednesday per Puckpedia. That could be indicative of something coming in the future. We'll talk about that in a moment, actually. Seth Jarvis, of course, is day-to-day. Hopefully we'll see him against Dallas. Frederik Andersen underwent surgery yesterday, I believe. He is out for 8 to 12 weeks. And because of the aforementioned things, particularly Jesper Foss being shifted to LTIR, we could potentially see a move for a goalie here in a little bit. That's something that's probably going to pick up some discussion at some point or another. Seth Jarvis, like I said, hopefully we'll see him against Dallas. No need to rush him back. We're first place in the division. No need to rush the guy back right now. Frederik Andersen, if he could be back between now and the playoffs and stay healthy, that would be great. But the Canes do need to consider some of their options when it comes to goaltending. I know I posted one the other day that maybe was a little bit controversial regarding John Gibson, but it's something that I think needs to be thought about. Not necessarily him, but Dustin Tokarski, who has had back-to-back shutouts with the Chicago Wolves, would be a good option to insulate the goaltending depth chart. So you could maybe grab him. And then you have 3 goalies at that point. You have Kochekov, Tokarski, and Martin specifically in that order. So I think that that's what the Canes could consider there. But they do need to do something in net because goaltending depth, it dries up very, very quick. Blue Jackets have won 2 straight games, so keep an eye on that. This is not a contending or a playoff team, but it is still a solid team. Like I showed you before, they're 6-3-0 at home, so they're doing pretty solid in their own barn, so that's one thing to consider. Boone Jenner out for the season with shoulder surgery. Eric Goodbranson out for the season with shoulder surgery, so that was 2 pretty big losses to a team that's already been through enough, but they're not having their captain is pretty bad. So they're young, they're inexperienced, but that's where some of the guys on their lines that I'm going to talk about come in, particularly Sean Monahan. So that's who we have to look out for tonight. All right, so team leaders here. You're going to see Sean Monahan on the right side of your screen a lot. So when it comes to goals, Jack Roslovic and Martin Necas both have 11. I can safely say I did not expect Jack Roslovic to have 11 goals for the Hurricanes at this point in the season this early. So good thing there. Martin Necas, 20 assists. Leader in points, also Martin Necas. He has 31 with 11 goals and 20 assists. Shane Gostisbehere is leading in points among defensemen with 14. He has 4 goals and 10 assists. Power play goals, Andrei Svechnikov is at 5, and I expect that to keep going up. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends the season with 10 to 15. If he manages to do that, then there's a distinct possibility that he eclipses the 30-goal mark. I know I beat a dead horse with this, but I definitely I don't see the chemistry with him and Aho. I'm hoping once Jarvis is back in the lineup, they can make some changes. I really think that the Roslovic, Aho, Jarvis line that they started to roll out, but then ultimately didn't on opening night, I think that line would be excellent. I really hope Rod gives that a try. We got to see the Kokoniemi, Necas, and Svechnikov line reunited for a little bit in the last game. I'm hoping to see that a little bit more going forward. That being said, Erob, KK, and Necas has been probably our best and most consistent and most dangerous line. It's a good problem to have, but there is a little tweak that will have to be made when Jarvis is back in the lineup. If they don't just put him back with Stahl and Martinuk, we will see. Shots on goal, Andrei Svechnikov, 66. He leads the team, and I'm really, really happy to see Svechnikov shooting the puck this much, seeing anybody on the team shoot the puck this much, considering some of the hesitancy there has been in the past with shooting the puck. It's nice to see this. Jacob Slavin leads the team with shot blocks with 32, and he also leads the team with average time on ice of 21-27. Don't be surprised there because it is, in fact, Jacob Slavin. Now, when we go over to look at the team leaders for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Sean Monahan is all over the board here. He is leading their team with 7 goals. He also is tied with Kirill Marchenko for leading among assists. He has 12. And, of course, Sean Monahan also leads the team in points. 19 points total, 7 goals, 12 assists. He has really, really stepped up this season, and he's playing pretty well. Zach Werenski is starting to see a little bit of a return to form as well. He has 19 points, leads the team among defensemen, and is also tied for the overall points lead of the team with 19, 6 goals, and 13 assists. He is their primary power play quarterback, and he's another one of those guys that can make something out of nothing. He joins the rush at the right times. When you're talking about what players you have to shut down from Columbus, Werenski is one of those guys that you have to really, really keep your eye on and do what you can to shut down his transition game, because he can move the puck with a really long pass, or he can join the rush and jump in and turn a 2-on-2 into a 3-on-2 at will. He's playing excellent this year, especially after how he's been a little bit off the last couple of seasons. And the guy's he's making his case to be on Team USA as well. So, he could potentially be partnered with Slavin if you don't put him with Fox. I'm really excited to see what those lines are going to be like. And Tripp, he said it on the broadcast the other night. He was talking about Jack Hughes being a future teammate of Jacob Slavin on Team USA. I'm more and more confident that Jacob Slavin will be there every day. So I really hope he is, and I think that he would be a big difference maker on the team, albeit a quiet one, but we'll see. Shots on goal, Sean Monahan power play goals, Sean Monahan leads the team with 3. He also has the most shots on goal for the team with 57. Damon Severson has blocked 33 shots for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Severson is one of those guys that I think he's got a little bit of an underrated two-way game. A lot of people see him as an offensive defenseman. They kind of view him the same way that a lot of people view Shane Gostisbehere, that they think it's a lot of offense and very just, passable defense. I think Damon Severson's got a more solid defensive game than a lot of people give him credit for. And then lastly, average time on ice, Zach Werenski's been an absolute workhorse for them, 25-46. And we will go on here to the next slide so we know what the team leaders are. So edge data here. Left, obviously, the Hurricanes, Blue Jackets on the right. Skating speed, Hurricanes have a little bit of a speed advantage, just about 0.3 of a mile an hour. And they cover a little bit more ice over the course of time. But the Jackets do have a skating disadvantage when you're talking about how much ice they can cover during the game. The Hurricanes, the reason they maybe cover a little bit less ground is because of how much time they spend in the offensive zone, which will be on a slide here shortly. So next thing here, Carolina, of course, as it is against most teams, they dominate offensive zone possession time. They don't stay in the neutral zone very long. They transition very quickly, even if they have to dump the puck in a little bit more often than a lot of people would like. And then in the defensive zone, they're only there 34.4% of the time, and that is excellent. You can tell there by the bar graph or the legend underneath the chart there how much time that they spend where they're supposed to spend it. With Columbus, it's not going that well. So this is one of those nights where Carolina can dominate offensive zone possession, have a quick neutral zone transition, not spend a lot of time in the defensive zone because Columbus may be kind of rebuilding, but they do have players that will hurt you if you stay in the defensive zone, stay in your defensive zone for too long. So Carolina has a pretty big advantage there. Now, when we're looking at shots on goal here, this is where Carolina actually is doing really solid in this department, and it's something that I was worried about at the beginning of the season, but so far they're actually doing pretty well in it. Shots on goal, they lead 638 to 610. Overall, 74 goals to 65 goals for Columbus. And here's where I'm really impressed. The shooting percentage is 11.6 for Carolina and 10.7 for Columbus. If Carolina can get the shooting percentage above 12 and consistently maintain it there, they might actually maintain their, roughly 4 goals per game pace that they've been on lately. It's nice to see that the puck is going in a lot of times when they're shooting it. For example, the other night, there against New Jersey, there wasn't a ton of volume shooting, and they ultimately didn't win. You can attribute that to fatigue. You can attribute that to travel, all kinds of other stuff. But it was almost refreshing to see them not put 45 shots on net, have 110 shot attempts, and only get 2 goals. It was kind of a good thing to see them lose that game in the manner in which they did, because if they'd put up a ton of shots and lost that game, it would have been a little bit disheartening. But so far, so good in that regard. So, lines. This is going to be a big thing to talk about here. I'm going to get to some of the comments, and then we'll get back to the lines here. Let me remove this for a moment. All Canes Network, what's up, buddy? Hello. Did you see TNT pulled my vid during the Chatfield interview on Wednesday? No, I didn't. That's pretty cool, dude. Congrats. I didn't know that. Caniac Sessions for Carolina Hurricanes fans. If you haven't heard, we wanted to do it a long time ago, but I will be joining them full time on their show, and I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, one of the best things that's ever come of me starting this is meeting Griff and AB and the Sams over at Caniac Report as well, and I've become really good friends with those guys. And, I love to argue, and we always argue about stuff in our group chat. It's really fun. So, AB, speaking of, can't wait for our first session officially. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Ivana, what is the concern level for Jarvis' shoulder? Will he be shut down this season for surgery? Also, I saw him at Whole Foods on Wade Avenue last Friday. He's got a nice car. I would hope he has a nice car considering that check that he just got. I'm not concerned about him having surgery or being shut down for the whole season. I think they would have made that determination already, and they would have made it pretty quick. Jarvis is a core piece of this team, and I'm actually going to talk about him a lot in this show. For someone who's not going to be in the lineup, there's something significant I do want to talk about in regards to him when I get to where I talk about Carolina's lines. AB says, what's your opinion on Elvis? I think his drop in the butterfly is so along with his stick work and high glove hand. So as I've stated in the past, I'm not the most well-versed guy when it comes to goalies. I would trust your judgment more on that than me. So when it comes to goalies, I basically look more so at the numbers, and I can make some observational statements here and there like I have with Kochetkov in particular lately. But for the most part, as far as analyzing stuff like that, your guess is significantly better than mine. Like I said, one of the things that I always said was when I started this channel, if I don't know, I will tell you I don't know. I would rather do that than come up with a fake answer like what's his name over on Steve Dangle, who said that Jalen Chatfield was an offensive defenseman and 21 years old last year. Both of those things are objectively false. So let's go back to the lines here. All right. So the Hurricanes reverted back to what has been their normal lines lately. Svechnikov, Aho, and Roslovic. Again, I don't personally see the chemistry with Aho and Svechnikov. If even when it's at its best, it's still pretty mediocre. I'll get to that when I talk about the goal percentage charts for the lines. Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez probably our best and most consistent line. Martin Stahl, Carrier. William Carrier has been, I have to give Griff from Caniac Sessions credit for this. He said that something along the lines of God could mold somebody to put with Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook, and it wasn't Jesper Foss. William Carrier is that guy. William Carrier absolutely is that guy. Tyson Yost has stepped into the lineup and done very well. He's forechecking. He's shutting guys down. He's being physical. He's playing hard. He's being a safety valve for the other two there. That's all he had to do, and he's walked in and he's done it very well. Defense remains unchanged. Slavin Burns, Orlov Chatfield, Gostisbehere Walker. And then lastly, you have Pyotr Kochekov in net. Then when you go over to the Columbus Blue Jackets lines, they've been different on several different occasions this year. Today's version of it is you have Bornikov, Monahan, and Marchenko for the top line, Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli, Kevin LeBanc for the second line. Third line, Shinnikov, Cole Sillinger, Matthew Olivier. And then for the fourth line, you have Zach Aston Reese, Sean Crowley, and Justin Danforth. So things to keep in mind with this forward group right here. In particular, the first line is not strictly carried by Sean Monahan, but he does drive the play on that line. He finishes on a lot of chances where those other two guys set him up, but he also creates a lot of them themselves. He is the heartbeat of that line and kind of the entire forward group right now. Now, when you look at that second line, that's nothing to sneeze at either. You have two young up-and-coming guys there who are very good with Kent Johnson and Adam Fantilli. Adam Fantilli in particular is who the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to build their team around in the future. Very, very good player, very offensively minded, but still has a very good two-way game, really good shot, really good vision. So when we look at so kind of like I was talking about with Utah when we played them, here you don't necessarily have to shut down whole units. You don't have to shut down whole lines. You do have to shut down in particular players before they make plays happen. The two guys to really, really look at in that regard are Sean Monahan and Adam Fantilli. Now, when you go to the defense, Zach Werenski, Dante Fabro, with that line, Zach Werenski is the one who drives a lot of offense for the Blue Jackets from the blue line, whether that is through joining the rush or generating breakouts or making a really quick passing play up during a zone exit. He does it all in that type of regard, and he defends well in the process. Dante Fabro is there to be the safety valve for Zach Werenski. So think of that as kind of a Slavin Burns dynamic, where Werenski is more of the Burns-like player in that case than Dante Fabro is. Now, the pair that I find the most dynamic for Columbus is Damon Severson and Ivan Provorov. Both of those guys can put a puck in the net. Both of those guys can make really quick passing plays. They serve kind of the same role for Columbus that the Gostisbehere Walker pair does for Carolina. So you'll probably see them a lot on offensive zone draws tonight. And then lastly, Christensen and Harris for their third pair. So Carolina's got a pretty big advantage here with the defense as per usual, but particularly keep an eye on that second pair for the Columbus Blue Jackets. If you shut down that second pair and shut down Zach Werenski, shut down their two top six centers, likeliness is Carolina wins this game. Now, lines goals percentages for the Hurricanes. This is something I've been working on to try and, put a little bit more visual reference into stuff like this. I wanted to make one like this for Columbus, but there wasn't a whole lot of data about their lines to the point where it wasn't even really worth putting in here. So Svechnikov, Aho, Roslovic, 6 goals for, 6 goals against, 2.85 goals per 60, 2.85 goals against per 60. That line right there is holding steady at 50%, and that's part of the reason why I'm looking forward to maybe them trying something different. This line is not bad, but there's probably a better combination out there that will benefit the team overall as a whole if that line is not together. They're getting stuff done 5-on-5, or they're breaking even 5-on-5, but the more you have going for a net positive, that line doesn't really create a net positive at the moment. If it gets going, the Hurricanes are going to be in good shape. I mean, they're in good shape now, but they'll be in even better shape after that. Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez, this line has been incredibly impressive. I've noticed when they've been out there, it seems like the defensive pair that they're hooked up with the most is Jalen Chatfield and Dmitry Orlov, and I can see why. I'll talk about that in a little bit when I get to the defensive pairs. Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez have played 15 games together, 133.2 minutes. Their goals percentage is 68.2%. The only reason they don't lead the team is they've not been deployed in the situations that Martin Stahl and Carrier have. And I imagine that eventually their goals percentage will probably exceed that of Martin Stahl and Carrier, who have a 75%. We'll get to them in a moment. 15 goals for, 7 goals against. They are scoring at a 6.76 goals for per 60 rate and getting scored against at a 3.15 goals against per 60 rate. That is excellent, especially for a line that has Eric Robinson on it, who has exceeded all expectations and created new expectations. Out of all the free agency signings that have exceeded expectations, I think Eric Robinson is the one that deserves the most credit right now. I had some reservations about signing a guy like that, and I saw him as nothing more than a depth piece. I could not have been more wrong. He has been excellent for this team to the point where we built a really excellent second line out of it. Now going on, Martin Stahl, Carrier, your traditional shutdown line. Pretty much any line with Jordan Stahl on it is a shutdown line. Jordan Martinook also has been on an absolute tear lately, and he was bumped up to the first line for a little bit. But Martinook, Stahl, Carrier, 16 games played together, the most of any of the forward groups, 99.1 minutes. They have a 75% goals percentage, 3 goals for, 1 goal against, 1.82 per 60 goals for versus 0.61 goals against per 60. So the way that this line is deployed, we already know that a lot of shutdown time, a lot of defensive zone draws, a lot of really important neutral zone draws. So they're doing their job. If they're positive, they're doing the right thing. Now, when you go to the fourth line, Tyson Yost, Jack Drury, Jackson Blake. Jackson Blake has added a scoring touch to that line. I'm not expecting this goal differential to stay, or this goals percentage to stay at 50% for this line for very long. They have played 6 games together, and they acclimated pretty quickly. They have a total of 46.8 minutes, 1 goal for, 1 goal against. So goals for and goals against are the same at 1.28 per 60. So that line, I think it's only going to improve. I see it dipping below. Now, where Carolina is having a lot of chemistry and a lot of consistent numbers put up is among the defense. All of the defense has greater than 200 minutes played together with these pairs over the course of all 19 games that have been played so far. Slavin and Burns has transitioned into more of a shutdown type of role, but even then they're still... Excuse me for a second, guys. Hold up. So they've transitioned into more of a shutdown type of role for the moment. That being said, if the offense gets going from that pair, it's got to come from Burns. So Slavin's not going to give you a ton of numbers. Brent Burns does have that capability to put up a lot of offense for you. So in 19 games played, they have played 289.1 minutes together. They have a goals percentage of 51.6. If that's going to go up, it will go from Burns' production. 16 goals for, 15 goals against, 3.32 goals for per 60, 3.11 goals against per 60. So very consistent pair, just enough to give you a net positive. But if Burns can start putting the puck in the net, maybe getting a few more assists and everything like that, that line's numbers are going to take off. Now the second pair here, 287.8 minutes, 74.1% goals percentage, Orlov Chatfield. We saw last season how good this pair was. They had, I don't want to say instant chemistry, but once they did acclimate, that became Carolina's best pair, in my opinion. It got to the point where it was better than the Shea and Pesce pairing was. 20 goals for, 7 goals against, 4.17 goals for per 60, goals against per 60, 1.46. And like I said, I've seen that pair out there a lot with the Robinson, Kotkaniemi, Natchez pair. That explains why that pairing is probably producing at the rate that they're producing at. And Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez have also defended well, so they've been helping that pair shut down transitions, shut down zone entries, and defend well. Likewise, Orlov and Chatfield through defense have forced a lot of turnovers and given Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and Natchez line a lot of time of possession, and they're making offense out of that. So that's one good thing to keep in mind in regards to that pair. Now, the third pair here, Gostisbehere and Walker. This pair serves a very, very, very specific purpose. Last season, I talked about it a little bit when Brett Pesce got injured, that a pair with Brady Shea and Tony DeAngelo is something that the Hurricanes needed because it gave you a go-to pair for offensive zone draws. And this team generates a lot of offensive zone faceoffs with the way that they play. They force a lot of icings. They put a lot of pucks on net that get frozen by the goalie and then have offensive zone faceoffs from there. And then you had those two guys on the back end, one of them with an incredible shot, the other one with incredible skating and incredible vision, who, when Carolina would win a faceoff, they made a lot of dangerous chances and they made them relatively quick. So that was one of those things that Carolina needed, was a pair with all that dominant offensive zone possession time. It's kind of a waste to not have a pair out there that is not specifically tailored for that, but still defends well enough at the other end of the ice. If all of Carolina's games were at home, per se, in theory, where they had last change, that pair's numbers would be significantly better. Not to mention, we still have to remember, even though Gostisbehere has been here before, he had to do a whole camp and acclimate. Sean Walker has acclimated very, very well. I'm expecting this pair to have a goals percentage of about 60 by the time the season is over. I think that they'll only get better, and they've already been pretty solid. Gostisbehere and Walker have played 239.1 minutes together over the course of all 19 games so far, 53.3% goals for, 8 goals against, 7 goals for per 60, 2 goals against per 60, 1.75. So, like I said, I'm expecting those numbers to go up, especially as the Hurricanes start to have more home games. And then overall totals. So there have been 1,140 minutes of hockey played, 5-on-5 in regulation, not counting overtime. And these pairs have been together for the majority of it. That 1,140 is the amount of hockey that's actually been played, not how much these pairs have played together. So you can do a rough estimate in your head talking about, wait, how many minutes have these guys played between each other? I'm going to add that in at some point. But these lines have been pretty consistent, even with Jarvis out of the lineup. Now, one of the other things I do want to point out, and this is something I was saying I was going to talk about earlier, when Seth Jarvis gets back in, all these numbers go up, offensively and defensively both. The reason being is because Seth Jarvis gives you a good player in all three zones who can score, forechecks well, denies transitions, hustles back on the back check really hard, defends the point well, and picks up his man in the defensive zone with Carolina's man-on-man defense. He does all those things. He's a net positive across the board. He's a complete player. When you put him back in the lineup, the numbers for whatever line he's on are going to go up, and by extension, the entire team's numbers are going to go up. So when he gets back in, everything will get better here. I'm hoping they'll maybe put him back with Aho. We will see. All right, so possession and expected goals. The way that I have this calculated here, the reason I have it like this, Corsi is one of the most overused stats in hockey. It does not value chance quality, and it doesn't even value whether the shot is blocked or not. It just says you shot the puck. It has nothing to do, it doesn't really account for the quality of a shot. Fenwick's a little bit better since it's unblocked shots. I do account for them in the overall grand scheme of things. Personally, my favorite advanced stat, and the only one that I think really paints a good picture, and no stat is perfect, no stat is all telling, is expected goals. So in this case right here, we will talk about how the expected goals measure up with the Corsi and the Fenwick. Corsi and Fenwick will only be basically glazed over, and then the rest of it we'll talk about from there. So Svechnikov, Aho, and Roslovic have a Corsi for percentage of 59.9%, and their unblocked shot percent is 60%. So they're pretty consistent there. I would like to see them get a few more shots through, but when they are getting shots through, they're making stuff out of it, especially Jack Roslovic right now. Expected goals percentage, they are 62.7%. That is excellent, and it's surprising to me that they're not putting the puck in the net more. There is a lot here in terms of what you can get for net positives from this line, how much they can actually score. 1 second, please. Sorry, guys. Frank is deciding to misbehave. So 8.4 expected goals for, expected goals against 5. As we saw in the last one, they're 6-6, so they're not scoring at the expected rate just yet, and they gave up 1 above the expected rate. That line can get going. I just don't see it being a big enough net positive to the point of keeping it around, because at that point it's just barely breaking even, and whatever line has Sebastian Aho on it and whatever line has Andrei Svechnikov on it needs to be creating greater net positives. It doesn't need to be breaking even. I understand that Carolina relies on a lot on its defense and a lot on its depth scoring, and I understand that that line seems like it's out there with Gostisbehere and Walker a lot. That being said, I'm personally not a fan of keeping that line together once Jarvis is back in the lineup, if there's any way they can shake things up. So then you go to Robinson, Kotkaniemi, and H. Corsi for 58.3%, Fenwick for 58.2%, expected goals percentage of 58.6%, expected goals for 7.8, expected goals against 5.5, expected goals per 60, 3.51, expected goals against per 60, 2.48. So again, that line putting up excellent numbers, almost the same as our first line, but they're making a little bit more out of it in terms of being able to generate offense. Martinook, Stahl, Carrier, again, this is a shutdown line, so their positives predominantly come from defense, but they do have a 61.7% Corsi, a 62% Fenwick, expected goals percentage of 60.9%. Excellent for a shutdown line, but the majority of that comes from them defending well. They don't score as high of a rate, but they do not need to. Expected goals for 5.6, expected goals against 3.6, 3.39 expected goals for per 60, 2.18 expected goals against per 60. And as you can see there, they're not the lowest goals against per 60, but they've also played a lot more than the line below them that we're going to talk about. As the season goes on, I'm expecting their expected goals against, should they stay together, to be the lowest on the team among the forwards. So Tyson Yost, Jack Drury, Jackson Blake. This line, after being put together in the absence of Jarvis, has been excellent. 62.2 Corsi 4 percentage, 61.5 Fenwick 4 percentage, expected goals of 54.8%, expected goals 1.7, expected goals against 1.4, expected goals for per 60, 2.18, expected goals against 1.8. I'm expecting that line to kind of stay where it's at so long as it's around. And I think that if you start having bigger net positives from it, it's going to come primarily from Jackson Blake and then a little bit from Jack Drury as well, but mostly from Jackson Blake. Tyson Yost is there to serve as a safety valve, to forecheck, help drive possession, and help defend, and he's doing just fine with that. Now, when you get into the defensive pairs, it's kind of the same thing with the first defensive pair that we talked about with the first line. Slavin and Burns have a 58.8% Corsi 4 percentage, a 57.5 Fenwick 4 percentage, and a 58% goals percentage. Now, even though they're nearly even in goal differential, 17.8% expected goals for Slavin and Burns. So the offense can be there. It's just not coming exactly the way they need it to yet. That's where Burns has to take the step there, because you're not going to get much more than you're going to get out of Slavin. He's creating offense at the rate in which he normally does and still defending in the Jacob Slavin caliber manner that we know. Expected goals against 12.9. So they're getting scored on a little bit above average, but I think that that'll go back down. Expected goals for per 60, 3.69. Expected goals against per 60, 2.68. So everything there is saying that that pair is doing stuff right. And I think over time, as they start producing more and defending a little bit better, and I think that will happen, those numbers will go up even more. Now, the second pair here, Orlov Chatfield, excellent. 59.9% Corsi 4, 60.4% Fenwick 4. Expected goals percentage, 61.4%. They have an expected goals for of 17 and expected goals against of 10.7. That is really good, especially for a pair that plays the really, really heavy 5-on-5 minutes and has as many defensive zone draws as they do. That is really, really good, because that pair is relied on heavily for shutting down the other team's lines. They get a lot of tough assignments. They get a lot of tough matchups, and to be able to have net positives like that is really good. Expected goals for per 60 is 3.54. Expected goals against 2.23. That is the second biggest difference on the team as far as the defensive pairs go. And it's the third biggest overall when you're talking about the offensive pairs and defensive pairs, or the offensive lines and the defensive pairs combined. That being said, like I said before, they have a lot of really tough matchups, and the fact that they're above 60 is remarkable. So then we go into the third pair here. When it comes to the Hurricanes, I see it as a shutdown pair, or I see this as not a shutdown pair, obviously, but a offensively minded pair. Like I said before, they were specifically brought for this, or they were specifically brought in for this role. Corsi 4, 66.5, or excuse me, this is Gostisbehere and Walker I'm talking about for any of you who are not on video, just strictly listening. 66.5% Corsi 4, 65.7 Fenwick 4 percentage, expected goals for 64.1. That is really good with these guys, and they're making it happen when they do have the puck, and I'm expecting that to go up more as Gostisbehere and Walker play more together, especially as Sean Walker continues to acclimate. Sean Walker is a depth scoring defenseman. He will add more offense over time. He's been in 3 different environments in the last 100 games or so, and he's adapted to all of them very, very well. So as time goes on, you will see Sean Walker start putting up better numbers. That's one of the things I like about Sean Walker, and I'm gonna piss some people off when I say this, but after everything I've watched, it's true. Brett Pesce, I don't like the term one-dimensional, but I will say this: Sean Walker is more of a dynamic player than Brett Pesce is. He does not deny entry as well, or maybe not defend his own zone as well, or maybe not block shots as well as Brett Pesce, but he does it at a high enough rate to where you hardly notice a difference, and then he makes up for it with a higher shot velocity, quicker zone exits, better transition play, and everything like that. Sean Walker is a very dynamic player, and you're only going to see him get better. Now, looking at the expected goals for, they have 14.3 expected goals for. Expected goals against is 8, and expected goals for per 60 is 3.58. Expected goals against is 2. The reason that their expected goals against is so low is because of how well they possess the puck, not so much the defense off of the rush or zone entry denials or zone defense themselves, but this pair is really good at keeping pucks in, and they're really good at making offensive zone draws last longer. That's the biggest reason why their XGA per 60 is so low, or their overall XGA is so low. But the reason why they had the lowest XGA among the defensive pairs and one of the lowest ones on the team is because of how well they possess the puck, how well they pass it, how well they move it. Do they bobble it in the offensive zone sometimes, or in the neutral zone sometimes in bad situations? Yes. But you know what they say, you have to spend money to make money. That's what that pair is for. So overall, the Hurricanes have a 60.07 expected goals percentage on the team. That is excellent. Anything above 50 is good. Anything above 60 is something else. And so far, that's reflected in all the games they're winning and the standings. 1 second, I'm going to get a drink of water here because that was a lot of talking I just did. I will walk you in a little bit. Let me finish my show, and I will walk you. You didn't need to go out earlier. Rodent. Lay down. Lay down. Okay. All right, so moving on to the goalies here. Pyotr Kochekov will be playing against Elvis Merzlikins tonight. Pyotr Kochekov is 10-2. He has a goals against average of 2.30 and a save percentage of 0.907. Dog, you are picking a bad time to do this. Elvis Merzlikins is 5-5, or 5-5-1. Goals against average of 3.02 and a save percentage of 0.895 in 11 games played. So Carolina does have the goaltending advantage so far. I'll put AB's comment back up here because, like I said, he plays goalie, so he knows it better than I do. So he says that he thinks he drops his butterfly is slow and along with his stick work and high glove hand. If that is the case, which I'm going to trust AB's assessment on that, simple process there. Either shoot low or shoot glove side high, whatever presents itself as a better opportunity. Now, looking at where their save percentages are and what AB said makes this make a little bit more sense. When you look at where their goals against are on the map, Elvis Merzlikins is getting up a lot of stuff right there in the high danger area, right in front of the slot and the high slot area. Carolina shoots the puck a lot from the outside, which generates a lot of rebounds back in areas like that, so that'll help. Now, looking at these save locations percentages, high danger save percentage, Pyotr Kochekov has a 8.85. High danger save percentage, Elvis Merzlikins has an 8.27. Mid-range save percentage, Kochekov has a 8.88. And Merzlikins has a 8.67 save percentage there. So one of the things that you can do with this, if you want to get to Elvis Merzlikins early, because I think he's decent enough to maybe steal a game for them, but doing that against Carolina is not always an accomplishment sometimes. But in this particular case, Carolina, with as much as they like to shoot the puck from the point, and it looks like he's giving up a lot of goals like right there in front, then that's probably one of those times where you shoot the puck or you throw the puck at the net as much as possible, get those juicy rebounds, and let the guys in front of the net take care of the rest. So if you throw a lot of muffins on net, let guys pick up garbage and throw it in the back of the net, and you should be good to go there. So that's probably the best thing you can do to beat Merzlikins. You don't have to go out of your way to get him overly moving side to side. You can just, it's not like when you're playing against Connor Hellebuck or someone like that who has really, really good rebound control or can see through screens a whole lot. He's giving up a lot of stuff right in front of the net. Part of that is to do with Columbus's defense, especially that third pair, and half of the first pair, you could maybe say, because of how high risk Werenski is, even though I think he's better defensively than a lot of people would say he is. So that's where you got to look at there as far as beating Merzlikins go. Now, on the radar here, Martin Nates has recorded a primary assist in the last game. We'll see if he starts a new point streak tonight. I'm expecting him to. This would be a good time for him to go ahead and, keep the offense going and everything like that. He doesn't need to score every night, but he's definitely doing well. Aho and Svechnikov reunited, as I talked about this. Will there ever be chemistry there? I personally don't believe so. And Jack Roslovic is in his hometown tonight. He is a Columbus native. And as you know, he used to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets after he was traded there from Winnipeg and then eventually going to the Rangers at the deadline last season. On the radar, Zach Werenski has 9 points in his last 5 games. And Adam Fantilli, part of the reason he's going to be so good is because he is learning from Sean Monahan. So look to see how similarly, he tries to build his game around Sean Monahan with the stuff he's trying to teach him. And then when we look at score and prevent here, Merzlikins goals against average, score and prevent. So basically, this is a simple little metric that I do to say if the Hurricanes score this many goals, they win the game regardless. If they prevent this many goals, they win the game regardless. So Columbus right now, the games that they're winning are high scoring on both ends. They're giving up a lot, but they're getting a lot. They can score plenty. They can't defend well enough, though, to make the difference a lot of times. In this case here, you have score 4, prevent 2. Elvis Merzlikins has a goals against average of 3.02. The Blue Jackets score 3.42 goals per game, and they have 3.59 against per game. The first whole number higher than all those things is 4. That's why I say score 4. On the other end of things, Kochekov, 2.30 goals against average. Goals against per game for the Hurricanes are 2.42. Goals for per game for the Hurricanes are 3.89. The first whole number underneath 2.30 is 2. If the Hurricanes allow no greater than 2 goals, they win this game in most scenarios. All right, so advantages here. I'm officially filing this under trap game. It's basically another Utah type of situation. Let's hope that doesn't happen again, and I honestly don't think it will. That was the exception, not the rule, in my opinion. Overall, 5-on-5 play, Carolina has the advantage there. Scoring forwards, as far as high-producing forwards, Carolina has the advantage there, and that is primarily thanks to Martin Necas more than anybody. Otherwise, I might have said it was close if this were last season, but last season Martin Necas has checked out, and we have a different Martin Necas this year. Overall forward depth with the Hurricanes have the advantage with overall forward depth. All 6 defensemen, advantage for the Hurricanes. Power play unit 1, I'll say that's Hurricanes have the advantage there, but it's close. Reason being is because they front load their top power play unit with guys like Fantilli, Monahan, and Zach Werenski. It becomes a lot more dangerous. And also, I think JVR is on their top unit, and he's a really, really good net front guy. Power play. So overall power play, when you're looking at both units, I think the Hurricanes have an advantage there. Penalty kill, Carolina, big advantage there. Goaltending, I'll give the advantage to Carolina. Kochekov has come a long, long way. Overall advantage is for Carolina. And then some other stuff here that I'm working on that you guys will eventually see at some point. There's a little preview of it. So we're going to remove that, and we're going to get to the rest of the comments. Kaniak Sessions says, Martinook for Selke. I mean, he's making a case, but the problem with the Selke is it's kind of like the Norris. The Norris is like arbitrarily awarded to the defenseman with the most points, it seems like now. It's like, okay, yeah, you help possess the puck, and you do really good zone exits, but who's forcing the turnovers in the defensive zone? Is it you or is it someone else? In the case of someone like Quinn Hughes, and I got into an argument with some idiot Canucks fan a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, okay, yeah, but it's like, yeah, Quinn Hughes does better zone exits. Quinn Hughes does this better, does that better, but is he as good defensively or defending off the rush as someone like Jacob Slavin? No, that's why there needs to be 2 different awards for defensemen, one that's based on do you defend well and a different one based on do you possess the puck well and get a lot of points. I think that those are 2 things that should be different. And you already know who the hell you would name it after, Bobby Orr for the offensive defenseman award. I mean, the NCAA has a defensive defenseman award. I don't know why the NHL doesn't do that. But the problem is Selke's now, it's not just the best defensive forward, it's like the best defensive forward with 60 points, which I think is dumb, but that's just me. But otherwise, yeah, Martinook's definitely making a case with the way that he's playing. I mean, he always does, but the guy's something else when he's on like he has been lately. BTS, Yellow, what's up, buddy? Sorry, I've been busy moving. Real fun. Absolutely no problem, man. I'm glad you made it here. Dylan Bollinger, what's up, dude? Sorry I'm late. I went and got food and got laughing too hard at one of my all-time favorite sitcoms. Bro, laughter is the best medicine. I'm glad you had fun. Thanks to AB Kaniak Sessions, my girlfriend and I are both really big Shane Gillis fans, and we started watching Tires last night. It's so fucking funny. It's hilarious. We're gonna watch more of it probably tomorrow at some point or another, but we were absolutely dying laughing at it last night. It's I don't know if any of y'all watch it, but there's one thing in the second episode where AB, you know what I'm going to say. How hard did you kick him? Dylan Bollinger says, we think Alexander Nikishin shows up 4 years in, and who does he replace? I personally don't think they'll take anybody out of the lineup to put him in. I do think he'll be here, and it's going to be really, really fucking weird just to see him sit. But I just don't see any way that they try to integrate him. Now, if there's an injury, you already know who's going to be number 1 going up, who's going to be the first guy that they put in. But as far as him being automatically inserted into the lineup, unless they magically decide to go 11-7, which sucks for everybody, I don't think they'll do that. I think that we're just unfortunately going to have to wait until next year unless there's an injury. And I don't want either one of those things, obviously, but we will see. I highly doubt we see him actually play in a playoff game this year unless someone just falls off a cliff and they put Nikishin in there. Then that's the only way I can see it happening. But we're so stacked on the blue line. It's a good problem to have. The fact that our top defensive prospect, one of the top prospects in the league, doesn't have room to come in the lineup, that really says something. All Canes Network says the slides look good. Thank you. And they're going to become more, they're going to be populated with more information in the future. I'm going to get somebody to like write me some Tamper Monkey scripts. If any of you all know anybody who writes scripts or anything like that, not like a play, but like for where I can just click a button and it automatically moves the data over into the slides, that would make things faster, because it takes me about an hour and a half to put the show together in a lot of cases. Like, for example, the Dallas game, I'm going to go ahead and start putting the stuff together for that tomorrow, and then I'm just going to try and update it as quickly as possible. Kaniac Session says, I heard JVR is a scratch tonight. You're right, he is. I read the lines earlier. I don't know why I even said that. You got me there. I don't even know why I thought about that. Coconut Kyle, what's up, dude? New awards are not likely as the league is traditionalist and stubborn. Yeah, and I hate that, because it's like, okay, one of the reasons why I think they should expand the awards criteria is, one, you have offensive defensemen and shutdown defensemen now. They're two completely different players. And then when people compare Quinn Hughes and Jacob Slavin, I'm like, you're comparing apples and like not even oranges. Like, it's not even a fucking fruit at that point. At that point, you're comparing like apples and I don't know, antifreeze. Like, it's not the fucking same. So I think that there should be two awards there, but then again, all the awards are becoming popularity contests. People think that I come up with controversial opinions just for the sake of coming up with them. When I said that Brock Faber should have won the Calder instead of Connor Bedard, I meant it, but Connor Bedard was going to win it because it's a popularity contest now. So, that's why I'm just kind of like, I wish they would expand their awards criteria. There's 32 teams in the league now. If they had an East and West MVP, I wouldn't hate it. I don't think that they should, but I wouldn't hate it. You always have the same guy winning the Hart over and over again, and that's Connor McDavid. Okay, yeah, he's the best player alive, but it's like, how many more times are you going to acknowledge that? Like, it's like they need to expand the awards criteria a little bit. Like, for example, they have the Jennings Trophy for goaltending pairs, or it can be awarded to goaltending as a pair. I don't see why they don't have something like that for a defensive pair. Orlov and Chatfield would be in the running for that probably if that were the case. So it's like, that's the only thing that we have to like consider with that is, you know, the league's bigger now. It's 32 teams. It'll be 34 by the end of the decade, 36 by like 2030 probably, if not sooner. So like, those are the things that I think the league needs to really start thinking about that. So Brian Todd says, should we be show? I guess. I don't know. Coconut Kyle says, great pregame content, by the way, and thanks as always. And thank you guys for joining me. I really, really appreciate that. I'm sorry I didn't get to do this last week, but I kept getting home late. And like, when I was going to do it before the New Jersey game, I was even starting to put everything together. And then that night I came home to try and finish it, and I didn't have time, and it wouldn't have been a very good show. So like I said, for every 1 minute of footage I have published on this channel, there's 3 or 4 minutes of it that has never seen the light of day, because if I don't feel like it's good, I don't put it out there. So I'd rather just not put stuff out than put bad stuff out, because there's a lot of other, like Locked On Senators, they've been kind of cunty lately. And one of the things that like annoys me about podcasts like that are propped up like that, they think that they can do whatever they want, and they just sell out low quality garbage to, you know, keep their rate of production high, and they just throw out a bunch of low quality stuff. I'm not like that. I would rather not do something than put out a half-ass bullshit product. That's just me. So, all right, that's going to be it for me tonight, guys. I will probably not do damage report after the game tonight. I will probably do it tomorrow if I do it at all. If not, I'll probably do a written one. But right now, I think I'm going to do it tomorrow because I want to catch up from the other games. And I have another project that I'm almost done with that I'm hoping to maybe finish tomorrow morning. and have it out tomorrow night. A lot of you who have followed me for a long time probably know what that is. So I'm going to go ahead and check out of here. Let's go Canes. Let's have a good night. I think they'll win tonight. I really do. And we will go from there and be ready for a really, really tough test on Monday with Dallas. So y'all take care. I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me.